welcome back to another video. I know it's been a few weeks since I last uploaded my first video, but I wanted to come on here and give you guys an update, a life update on my life 1 year after moving out of New York. I also realized I don't really have an introduction for this channel. If you don't know me, my name is Celibel Bonilla. Yes, with the accent in Spanish. It's pronounced Sally Bell, but I like to say it in Spanish. Born and raised in New York, and I currently live in Florida. So if you haven't watched my last YouTube video, I highly recommend you go and do so because it'll give you some insight on this video and basically where I am up until now. So it's officially been a year since I have moved to Florida, and I just wanted to give you guys an update on how life has been, how life is going, how life away from my family and my parents is going. I also have a dog, but he's in New York as well. So life has been interesting the last year, to say the least. But I just wanted to give you guys an update so you guys can get to know me, so you guys can know who I am. So if you haven't watched my testimony video, I highly suggest you do so. It'll give you more insight on who I am and what I've been through. But then this video will give you some insight on what the last year of my life has looked like. So I moved to Florida the very end of July, and life was good. Life was great. I was living on my own. It was new, but it was exciting to try something new and try something that I've always wanted to do. I started to build a community. I found a community at the gym. I joined the run club. I started to make a lot of friends very quickly. My job was going great. Like, life was great. I could not lie. So 2 months after moving to Florida, I got a phone call from my parents telling me that I need to come to New York as soon as possible because my grandmother is ill and she's in the hospital. I'm really gonna try not to cry again, but I can already feel it. I believe that was a Monday or Tuesday night. At about 8 p.m. I got the phone call. By 4 a.m. I was on a flight to New York with my dog because my grandmother was on her final days. And my only prayer at that moment was, God, allow me to see her alive one more time. Hold her until I get there. So I land at about 11 a.m. My parents picked me up from the airport and we rushed straight to the hospital. My parents had spent the night with her at the hospital, and basically they told me that she was on life support. Her heart had failed overnight and they rushed her to, I believe it was the ICU, and plugged a catheter. Catheter? I think that's the word. They plugged a catheter in her neck that was allowing her to still be alive. Oh man, here we go. So we rushed to the hospital after I land, and I leave my dog in the car with my dad. My poor dog, he went through a rough day that day. I get to the hospital, I rush upstairs to her room. My uncle's in the room, my mom's in the room, and I walk in and I look at her. And the first thing I could say, the only thing I could really say is, Ma, what happened? You were supposed to come visit me in Florida. I didn't think I was gonna cry. And the look on her face was just like, I'm sorry. And I almost feel bad now for even saying that because I know if she could have, she would have. But it was just her health was not in the best condition. So why am I in the middle of editing this video and just realize I have a huge stain on my sweater? Please disregard that stain and just pay attention to what I'm saying. And I would pray that like she would be able to come and visit me and see my apartment and just see that this life that I've built in the past 2 months in Florida, or just like in general. She was talking about coming like November, December, whether she was gonna be healthy enough, if she was alive, if she did make it to come, I don't know. But she would talk about like November, December coming to Florida and seeing and like staying in my apartment. So the look on her face was just like, I'm sorry. And I just began crying, like boo-hoo crying. And she begins to cry too. And after that, I really had no words. I just kept telling her, you need to get better. It's okay, you're gonna get better. You gotta like push through. And then the reality of what she was facing really like settled in. And I realized that there's a very slight chance that she was going to make it out of that hospital alive. I ended up staying in the hospital for at least like 4 days with her. And I just watched her health decline. And There was one night, I remember I was alone with her, and she just kept staring at the door to her room, and she just kept saying, "Open the door, open the door." And I would open the shades, and she'd be like, "The light," like she sees the light. At the time, I didn't really know what she was talking about. Her eyes were open, but you can tell she wasn't there. And I remember calling my dad in the middle of the night because they had him and my mom had went back home. And I remember calling him and saying, "I don't think she's gonna make it through the night," because the look on her face and her eyes, I could tell she wasn't there anymore. And to watch her decline overnight, it was a lot and it hurt. But I'm grateful that I was able to be there with her, comfort her the best way that I possibly could, pray over her, hold her hand. I'm just grateful that I got that moment with her. So I believe I arrived on a Wednesday and her health just kept declining. It got to a point, I believe it was Friday. I believe Friday was the last time that she was actually speaking. Saturday and Sunday were just really rough. She wasn't speaking anymore. She was in a lot of pain. They kept pumping her with pain medicine. The medicine intake just kept increasing, so you know that she was in more pain. And I remember one night I was in the hospital with my mom. The amount of pain that she was in was just so concerning. And we couldn't figure out what it was. None of the doctors at that moment couldn't figure out what it was. And it was that her kidneys were shutting down. Her organs, like just all of her organs were starting to shut down. And really the only thing keeping her alive and keeping her breathing was the catheter that was in her neck. Come to find out, she was essentially on life support, and she was only alive because of that machine. So after talking to the doctors, they said once we unplug her, there is really no chance that she's gonna live. I just realized I haven't told this story in a long time. And I haven't really sat down to really process or like just being here alone and retelling the story. I didn't realize that like there's still a lot that I haven't processed when it comes to her death. So my parents started making all the phone calls necessary. All weekend, the hospital was filled with family members just saying their goodbyes. And on Monday, we sat down with the doctors, a whole team of doctors, and we decided that she was no longer speaking. She was in a lot of pain, and it was time to let her go and be at peace. And if you've known me for a while, you know that my grandmother, she's my world. Like, I love that woman so much. So losing her was like losing a part of me. So on Monday, we decided that it was time, October 7th to be exact. And yeah, after we met with the doctors, we all decided that it was in her, it was not even in her best interest. It was just what was best for her at that moment was just to let her rest because she was just in a lot of pain. She wasn't speaking anymore. Her eyes weren't open. She was just declining rapidly and she was just in pain, like a lot of pain. And once my mom signed all the paperwork, they unplugged her. And when they unplugged her, she maybe lasted an hour, if that. And I remember me and my cousin were just standing beside her bed, just watching her heart rate decrease. So what they did was they unplugged her from life support, but still continued to pump pain medicine into her so that she would go at peace and that she wouldn't feel any pain when she was going. And I remember me and my cousin were just standing by her bed, watching her heart rate drop. And they had turned off the monitor, so we couldn't see when she was gone, but we could see her breath start to slowly go. The doctors are watching the monitors outside the room. It got to a point where we didn't see her taking any more breaths, her heart. It didn't seem like there was any heartbeat. So me and her went out to the doctor to ask them if she was still breathing or if her heart was still pumping. And she just looked at us. She just looked at us. And the look on her face just told us everything that we needed to. All right, I'm back. I just needed a moment. So the look on the doctor's face just told us everything we had to know. And we walked back into the room, and I just looked at my mom. And she just knew. She just knew there was no words to really say. So the doctor gave us a few minutes and then they came in and they started unplugging her, like officially unplugging her, like removing the catheter from her neck, the IVs and things like that. Yeah, so that was that. So I was in New York for about 2.5 weeks. I missed work. I'm so thankful for my job that they allowed me to take that time off. It was definitely hard to say the least. I got back to Florida and I honestly just numbed out the pain. I blocked it out. I acted like I was fine. I jumped right back into the regular routine that I was in. I was going back to the gym. I was at the run club. I was at work. Like, I just acted like I didn't just go through something traumatic. And I think that's where I went wrong because I suppressed all of that pain and it would later come up. So that was October 7th that she passed away. November 11th, I flew back to New York for my little brother's birthday. Life was like, it was okay. Like, I was just managing. I was trying to be there for my mom. She was going through a lot. Also, my grandfather was in the hospital at the time my grandmother passed away, and he had suffered a stroke. So he was also battling health issues. And it was at the point where he was transitioned into a nursing home. He was getting better. Life keeps going, and that's the sad reality. Life literally keeps going, and you can't really stop. So you just have to grieve and keep pushing. So I'm back in New York for Thanksgiving. My mom's birthday is November 27th. So I'm at the gym, and I got a phone call from my little brother. And all I hear in the background is my mom screaming at the top of her lungs. And he's like, Sally, you gotta come home right now. And I'm like, what happened? And he's like, you gotta come home right now. You gotta come home right now. I'm thinking something happened to my dog. And he's just like, and that's all he can say is, Sally, you gotta come home right now. And I said, Henzi, tell me what happened. Tell me what happened. He tells me our grandfather passed away. I said, there's no way. I said, literally on the phone, I said, there's no way. Like, there's no way. Because there's no way that my grandmother just passed away less than 2 months ago. And now you're telling me that my grandfather passed away when he was getting better. And I was just like, no, not at all. So I remember I was working out with my friend Andy, and she sees the look on my face. I said, I gotta go. And I run, grab my stuff. I run out the gym. She follows behind me. She's like, what happened? I said, my grandfather passed away. And she's just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And yeah, and just rushed home. I honestly don't remember driving home, but I get home, calling my brother nonstop. He's at work, he's not answering the phone. I get home, and my mom is just, she just looks at me in such defeat. Because what do you say to somebody that lost their mom October 7th, and now on their birthday, they lose their dad less than 2 months after losing their mom? Man, I just looked at my mom and I had no words. And even to this day, I don't know how. Like, it was only by the strength of God that she got through that. And she continues to get through that. She continues to persevere. We get that news. I believe that was a Wednesday. I believe Thanksgiving was the next day, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. It's all a blur. But I remember at that point asking God, why? Why are we going through so much pain? Why is it that after I moved to Florida, now my mom needs me the most and I'm the farthest away? Why is all of this happening right now? Like, I need answers. I need you. God, I need you. I felt him tell me that I need to stay off of social media because I would scroll for hours just trying to disassociate, just trying to block my mind off of everything that I was feeling. So I would scroll for hours. And I felt him tell me that I need to get off of Instagram. So I did. Had my grandfather's wake, had his funeral, and again I had to take another 2 weeks off of work. By the grace of God, they didn't fight me on it. At that point, I had no more time left at work, but they allowed me to just stay in New York as long as I needed. So I returned, I believe it was the first week of December. That's when I really had to sit with my feelings, sit with my thoughts, being alone in my apartment. And I just continued to try and find answers as to why all of this was happening. I couldn't understand why it was as soon as I left that it just felt like my world started to shatter. It felt like my world just was crashing, and it was crashing fast, and I couldn't understand. And I even contemplated moving back to New York. It was only by the strength of God, by the grace of God, that I stayed, because everything in me just wanted to be with my family. I wanted to be with my mom. I felt like I needed to be there to comfort her. And I'm her only girl, so it's hard. To this day, I don't know how we all got through all of that. After 2 weeks of being off social media, I finally went back on, and I didn't want to at all. But I started posting more of my journey. I started healing. I feel like I started healing publicly, showing that, like, God's grace, God's love, God's mercy, and just how He can take such tragedy and turn it into such beauty. Everything that I've been through, everything that I walked through, even in the past year, has made me this person that I am today. And I'm just grateful that from something that could have been so bad and so ugly, He has made it so beautiful. And just seeing how my life has turned out, how beautiful it has turned out, the heart that I have, just the person that I'm becoming, like, it just screams God. It just screams Jesus. This is not anything that I could have done. This is honestly 100% God. Now it's my birthday. I'm on Christmas break. I fly back to New York. Holidays were hard. We didn't want to do a thing. It was rough. It was rough getting through Christmas, especially without my grandmother. We have pictures of years of her being there in the house. So Christmas was definitely rough. After New Year's, I returned to Florida. I finally started to feel like I was healing in January, February. I started to see, like, the light again. I started to feel lighter. I started to feel better. I started to see that, like, joy kick back in. I want to say it was like February, March that I really started to see it. And I started to feel like the old, not even the old me, but me, like, I was just starting to come back. And of course, I'm now this new person that is navigating life with all of this grief. But I saw the life start to come back to me. Life was going uphill. I believe it was April was a very tough month. I'm not sure why, but that month, the grief hit me all over again. And I felt myself needing to take time off, needing to just, like, separate, just to spend time with God, soak up His word, because I felt every ounce of grief again, and I couldn't understand why. But one thing I learned is that grief comes in waves, and you can't anticipate when it's going to come, and you can't really do anything about it when it comes besides just to feel. One thing I learned from when my grandmother passed away is that suppressing the grief does not help. Then June comes around. I drive to New York. I have a video on the revelation that God gave me while I was driving to New York, which was beautiful. I took that trip on my own. My parents were against it, but I felt God calling me to take that drive on my own and spend alone time with Him. And I'm so happy that I did. It was beautiful. So if you haven't watched that reel, I'll link it down in the description just so you can see it. Basically, I spent all of June there. No, I'm lying. I'm lying. Rewind. So after I finished the work for the year, for the school year, my one of my closest friends in Florida, she actually got engaged, and I had the honor of, like, setting it up, planning it, bringing her there. It was beautiful. I served at a huge church event called VulCon. That was also amazing. Life was, like, going great. Life is going great, honestly. So now July comes around, and this is when I drive. The end of June, I believe, I take the road trip on my own to New York. That is when I receive huge revelation, beautiful revelation. And then I spent all of July in New York. So I spent 2 weeks, I believe 2.5 weeks in New York. And then we all took a family trip to DR. That was also amazing. If you don't know, I'm Dominican, so just being in my country is amazing. We flew back to New York, and then from there it was time to head back down to Florida. So me and my dad took the road trip back down to Florida. This past year I've had to heal from a lot. I've had to learn this new life, navigating living alone. I've had to navigate life without two of my grandparents that were so near and dear to my heart and still are. It's also been hard navigating without my dog. He was only here with me for about a month, before I took him back to New York, and I realized that he was better off in New York, so I ended up leaving him there. But overall, like, I have just seen God's hand on my life and his grace on my life and his love and his mercy on my life, and I can't complain. I can't take any credit for how far I've gotten mentally, emotionally, physically. Like, it's all thanks to him, because if it was up to me, I would be back in New York. I don't know where I got the strength to even move in the first place on my own to a whole nother state. Like, when I tell you, this was all because of God. This was all the strength of God. To the point where I am now, it's just solely been God. So I don't know where you find yourself. I don't know if you're watching this and this is confirmation for you to move. If God's blessing is on it, if God is telling you to do something, go ahead and do it. I promise you won't regret it. Just stay in his will, stay in constant communication with him. Stay in constant prayer. Stay in your word. Allow him to guide you and lead you wherever he is leading you. Just trust that his plan for your life is perfect. It is beautiful. And he will never leave you nor forsake you. Just stay in relationship with him. It is the best decision I've ever made. It is so beautiful just watching my life unfold. If you guys have any questions, you can leave them down in the comments. I think next video I'll actually do a Q&A. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video.